Some announcements. February 25th is half-day sitting, and in the afternoon, an all Sangha meeting. You can come for all of it, you can come for part of it. You can, of course, come for all of it if you can, please, and in person, please. But just let our registrar know so we have some sense. And please, we haven't done a Sangha meeting since before the pandemic, so it'd be nice to all get together and see where we are and share our Dharma lives in that way. I'm leaving Sunday, Monday. I get so nervous about getting on airplanes just because I never know what day it is. And they seem to make you want to know what day it is and to show up on time. I track it very carefully. So I will get on an airplane along with others in the Sangha and others from lots of other places, and we'll arrive in Aravaipa Canyon and be doing sesshin there for about 5 days or so. The Everyday Zen sesshin applications close tomorrow, Friday. So if you had any thoughts about wanting to do that, make sure you go online and find that. Next week, Debbie and Chelsea will be leading the Sangha. And then the week that I get back, we will be concluding the final chapter with social and communal harmony. And then after that, I keep trying to talk myself out of this, but it doesn't seem to be working. We're going to spend some time with Dogen's Uji, which it just feels to me in the most fundamental way. You can't understand Dogen, and fundamentally, I don't think you can really understand time and timelessness. I think Dogen names a visceral, intuitive way of being that we don't make conscious, and I think he does it really beautifully through Uji. So we'll be starting that in a few weeks, few weeks. So we did a full moon ceremony that flowed out of intentional communities, the section on intentional community. And as Bhikkhu Bodhi says, some communities are just natural, they just is, they happen. The community of Sebastopol, the community, well, that's not, what's a natural community? Nature, yes. Community of alive, it just is. And intentional communities, and an intentional community that grew out of the Buddha's teachings, that often grow out of wise beings, is a Sangha. And when you put a Sangha together, which at that time was a monastic Sangha, it needed rules. And the full moon ceremony, the precepts are an outflow and a Zen expression of these early teachings, which Bhikkhu Bodhi brings forward here. I want to bring forward a slightly different part of it today. First part being, in community, 4 means of embracing others. It's a beautiful little verse here. Giving, endearing speech, beneficial conduct, and impartiality under diverse worldly conditions, as is suitable to fit each case. These means of embracing others are like the linchpin of a rolling chariot. Giving, endearing speech, beneficial conduct, and impartiality under diverse worldly conditions. The world is always just going to be what it is and bringing what it is. So Buddha's pointing at These are means of, what beautiful language, to embrace each other, to embrace life. These means of embracing exist, and therefore the wise respect them. Thus they attain to greatness and are highly praised. Want to help the world? Want to be a good spiritual friend? Want to wake up with and for all beings? There you go. The Buddha's pointing towards the way. What I want to mention and then come back to today in intentional community is caring, attending to the sick. Monks possessing 5 qualities, an attendant is qualified to take care of a patient, because of course people got sick. I mean, of course, sickness, aging, and death wasn't, it happens in a monastery, it happens no matter what community you're part of. So what are the 5 qualities? You're able to prepare medicine, probably herbs back then. I remember going to an ancient monastery someplace in Europe, I mean a very old monastery, and each monk had a cell, and outside of each cell there was space for a little herb garden, because that's what people knew back then. I thought, this is so, what a beautiful way to cultivate your deep vows, that connection with the earth and herbs and medicine. The Buddha was called the great physician. He's the great healer. You know what is beneficial and harmful, so you withhold what is harmful and offer what is beneficial. You take care of the patient with a mind of loving kindness, not for the sake of material rewards. You are not disgusted at having to remove feces, urine, vomit, or spittle. And from time to time, you're able to instruct, encourage, inspire, and gladden the patient with the Dharma talk. You do what is beneficial. You observe moderation in what is beneficial. This is what a patient does. You observe moderation in what is beneficial. You take your medicine. You accurately disclose your symptoms to your kind-hearted attendant. This is actually, I hadn't really read this part. This is great. We need to be able to do all of the above. So you accurately disclose as fit the case that your condition is getting worse or getting better or remaining the same. And you can patiently endure arisen bodily feelings that are painful, racking, sharp, piercing, harrowing, disagreeable, sapping of one's vitality. And when all of this happens, then the patient is easy to take care of. So we're going to come back to that, but I just wanted to finish the final part of this section. A model for monastic harmony. On one occasion, when the Venerable Duha, Nadia, and Kimbala were living in the Gasanga solid tree wood, the Blessed One went to visit them. And when they heard he had arrived, all 3 went to meet the Blessed One. One took his bowl and outer robe, one prepared a seat, and one set out water for washing the feet. The Blessed One sat down on the seat, made ready, and washed his feet. And then those 3 venerable ones paid homage to the Blessed One and sat down on one side. And when they were seated, the Blessed One said to them, I hope you are all keeping well, Anuruddha. I hope you are all comfortable and not having any trouble getting alms food. Makes me think, do you remember in the Lotus Sutra, when all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas came down from all the realms, and what they did is they said to Shakyamuni Buddha here in the earth realm, they said, how are you? How's your health? How are you doing? I mean, it's the same thing. It's kind of the same thing we do with each other and with people that we love and care about, and hopefully we do it with people who maybe we have to stretch to say, how are you, and to really care. We are well, Blessed One. We are comfortable, and we are not having any trouble getting alms food, because then you had to go out and beg for food. That was, there was no assumption that your refrigerator was going to be full. You really had to depend on the community of lay people. The monastics were completely beholden to lay people, and lay people then of course expected the monastics to set a certain kind of standard, because the monastics were living this kind of pure life for them and for the whole world, hence the rules that came forth. I hope, Anarunda, that you are all living in accord, with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, and viewing each other with kindly eyes. Isn't that, I just love that, to view each other with kindly eyes. Surely, Bhante, we are living in accord with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes. But Anarunda, how do you live thus? Bhante, as to that, I think it is a gain for me, it is a great gain for me that I am living with such companions in the holy life. I maintain bodily acts of loving kindness towards those venerable ones, both openly and privately. I maintain verbal acts of loving kindness toward them, both openly and privately. I maintain mental acts of loving kindness towards them, both openly and privately. And I consider, why should I not set aside what I wish to do and do what they wish to do? That I set aside what I wish to do and do what they wish to do. We are different in body, but one in mind. That is how, Bhante, we are living in accord, with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes. Good, good. I hope that you all abide diligent, ardent, and resolute. Diligent, ardent, and resolute. Great words. Surely, Bhante, we abide diligent, ardent, and resolute. But Anarunda, how do you abide thus? Bhante, as to that, whichever of us returns first from the village with alms food, prepares the seat, sets out the water for drinking and for washing, and puts the refuse bucket in its place. Whichever of us returns last eats any food left over if he wishes. Otherwise, he throws it away where there is no greenery, or drops it into water where there is no life. He puts away the seats and the water for drinking and for washing. He puts away the refuse bucket after washing it, and he sweeps out the refectory. Whoever notices that the pots of water for drinking, washing, or the latrine are low or empty takes care of them. If they are too heavy for him, he calls someone else by a signal of the hand, and they move by joining hands. And they move it by joining hands. But because of this, we do not break out into speech. But every 5 days, we sit together all night. We sit together all night discussing the Dharma. That is how we abide diligent, ardent, and resolute. In other words, you help each other. It's one of the wonderful things about doing longer retreats. I mean, we do it here because we help each other set up and we take things down, but it's also in a longer retreat. You really get to help with the food and the cooking. And I was, maybe I'll just tell the short story again. You probably heard it, but Erica and I were talking the other day about how Erica became the Tenzo at our Canyon. It's such a great teaching story because it enters into this deep archetypal. Is that there was a wonderful caterer who used to come and cook for us because we're on a little ranch, and then I think an Airbnb hired her. And I'm sure offered her a lot more money than we were. She was really good. And so Mary Koopman went online and tried to find someone who could come and cook for us, and I think interviewed her, and this whole thing was all set up, and we were all ready, and we had everything all set up, and we were getting prepared for the first meal, and looked around and thought, no meal. What's happening here? The kitchen was really quiet. Yeah. And so Mary went upstairs and found, I think essentially the cook was passed out in her bed. And then, of course, we all had to decide, well, we're all here, we're on this isolated branch, what are we going to do and how are we going to help each other? And we said to the would-be cook, thank you very much, but we think we're going to go on without you. And then we all stood around in the kitchen and looked at each other and went, The food was there, the pantry was full, and I think Erica just said to me, because she was one of the people there, as a participant, it seems to me I'm the most likely one to be able to do this. And she just stepped forward and said, I'll do it. I'll be the Tenzo. And she took all the food, I remember, and she stacked it up and arranged it on the table by meals and just coordinated the whole thing right in front of us. And took over and cooked all the meals and has been doing it ever since. That story makes me cry.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful story of just how can I help and what's the appropriate response. Which of course we all do in ways big or small. But you have to sort of be asking, not like, how can I help, how can I help? But just, what's needed here? So that's where I want to go back to sickness. I'm very aware that Hozan Alan Sanaki at the Berkeley Zen Center went in for a routine procedure some weeks ago, maybe months and weeks, anyway, some period of time ago, and went into a coma, is in the hospital, and little encouraging things happen and things that aren't so encouraging. And what Lori Sanaki, his wife, keeps saying is essentially, we don't know what's going to happen, but the most important thing is that we're all in this together. That each one of your presence and the little notes that you send and the fact that you say that you care, you can't know how much that's holding us in this situation. So again, how do we help and how do we manifest that? And then I just ordered this book that Wrench and Bunce put together about Steve Stuckey, Abbot Steve Stuckey. Because when we're in our Vipa, one of our themes is going to be gratitude, and Steve Stuckey, as many of you may know, that was one of his major practices of gratitude. And Steve Stuckey was one of the abbots of San Francisco Zen Center. He received a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer just out of, I had this little ache, I had this little whatever. He got diagnosed, and I think he was dead within four months. It happened really fast. Steve Stuckey was a big, he was a Mennonite farm boy. I mean, if you were going to pick out of a crowd somebody this wouldn't happen to, you would have picked out Steve Stuckey. You would have thought all the more, anyways, it was a big surprise for everybody. His practice was every morning to wake up with gratitude, no matter what. And he maintained that practice through all of this. And he inspired and led everyone right up to his death. So I just wanted to read you a couple of things from here. I'm going to be sharing some of this in the retreat too, so some of you may hear it twice. I think within days of receiving his diagnosis, there was a meeting at Zen Center where he just told everybody was invited. Good evening. For some years, I've been doing a practice waking up with gratitude. First thing, sitting up at the edge of the bed and putting my hands together and just saying the word gratitude. Then it's an open question, for what? And whatever comes up in my experience is that which I am, say, grateful to be meeting. Whatever it is who I am, and whatever it is supporting me in this life. It's completely beyond judgment or preference. So lately, I've been grateful to have that practice, and right now, I'm grateful for this moment. And everyone here, each person, and so I want to begin with that and not lose track of that. I sent out an email a couple days ago, and toward the end of it, I quoted Dogen's little poem saying, "To what shall I liken this world? Moonlight reflected in dewdrops shaken from a crane's bill." And that's beautiful. And it also has a kind of ethereal remoteness. And so I followed that with another verse from Blind Lemon Johnson, which Steve began to sing, because that's what Steve did. He played his guitar and he sang. And I don't know the words to that because they're not here. But he says, it brings it more into the realm of what I'm feeling. That is literally the case, actually. I don't mind dying, and I do hate to leave everything and everyone, which is, I think, the gist of that song. I also must confess I really hate the pain in this body. Talk about being a good, clear patient for everyone as it comes up. Oh yeah, that is hard to bear. So I have been taking some drugs. I don't think I'll be able to sit up here without having some pharmaceutical support, so that's also part of the support network. This is from another talk. Some of you may have more experience with this cancer than I do. I have received many messages from people. Again, this is Alan Sanaki's experience too, from people saying, anything I can do to help. I really appreciate the feeling of that. It's already helpful just to confirm that there's a relationship. That's important and valuable, and to acknowledge it is helpful. People are more freely telling me they love me, and I'm more freely telling people I love you. And that's so good to acknowledge. At the same time, it's so poignant because it's kind of like signing up for grief, you know? Signing up for loss. Part of what we need to do as human beings is actually sign up for being a human being. And signing up for being a human being means relationships that we have that we know on one side are fabricated, and there's delusion, there's self-clinging involved, and at the same time, it's how we manifest our connectedness that goes beyond any kind of dualistic sense of me and you. I've been working with the phrase that comes from Dogen's teaching on the Buddha, Yubutsu Yobutsu, a Buddha together with a Buddha. And he quotes another ancient. He always says an ancient Buddha when he's quoting ancestors. People used to go and read Dogen to Steve. That was one of the things that made him really happy. He would just lay in bed and people would read Dogen to him. You can come read Dogen to me. One who says, he's quoting ancestors, one who says the entire earth is the true human body. So each human body is also independent and simultaneously the entire earth. Sometimes you may see that when you let go of your particular attachment to some small identity and realize that the tree is as much a part of me as my shoulder, the sky is as much a part of me as my eyelashes, and the sound of the ocean is as much a part of me as the sound of my own breathing. To actually experience it that way is something that shows up in our practice. I think it's not so unusual, particularly for people who are doing this practice of sitting. I'm very grateful to have this practice that sustains me and will continue to sustain me to the last moment of consciousness. So there's something so precious about it, and I feel partly, as abbot, I feel there is a thought. Okay, I have to accept the limitation that I have to let everyone down.
could you raise your voice a little bit?
Yeah, sorry. Should I read that again?
Yes.
Okay, which part of it? Just the last part? It makes me cry. That's why my voice is dropping. I have to accept the limitation that I have to let everyone down. Must be a big part. Of this becoming ill, not being able to be who you thought you were, not being able to help in all the ways that you thought you were going to be able to help, and then, good heavens, you're going to die. I mean, talk about what a big disappointment that must be for yourself and everybody else. But then he says, what is it to help? I think help is being complete. And that includes whatever is, and not trying to cut off some of it, but include whatever is. And within that defined, how can I be helpful? How can I take care of this moment? This part of it that's actually within the realm of care, but always with the thought that this is an expression of some completeness that is beyond birth and death as separate things. So I really see that and feel that, and I think it's something all of us know in our deepest bones or marrow or beyond the marrow or beyond may not be right. More intensely within the withinness of the marrow. So this is the entire earth as the true human body. Steve was pretty amazing, patient, and completely transparent every step of the way. As I think Alan Senaki is being in his own way. I mean, he's unconscious, so he doesn't have any choice, but his family's doing that, is really offering his living and dying each moment. And then the question is, you know, how do we live and how do we help? Most of us are, some of us are sick, quote, some of us are well, sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. And the Buddha's teachings on social and communal harmony. How do we take care of and help each other? So I thought that would be an interesting thing to come together and talk about as a community. I mean, how do we do that with each other? How do we do that with our loved ones? How do we do that with an ailing world? How do we do that with those out there that we think and see and perceive physical illness, or we may perceive delusion? Like you listen to the news and you think, what is wrong with those people? You know? And then how do we take care? I mean, we're all on this globe and this planet and in this life together. So you can pick this up any place you want. You may be very, very personal, and it may be wherever it touches you. Is Steve's question is, what is help? No right answer. Hopefully you start someplace and you find out something you didn't. Here's a picture of Steve. I knew Steve's. A lot of these people that have been lionized, you know, it's like, oh, Steve Stuckey, oh, Blanche Hartman. I mean, they were amazing, but I'll tell you, they were just human beings, just like you and me. And the difference is that they just complete their vow. They got to manifest it in particular positions within for everybody, which is what we're all doing. So don't make somebody special here, and don't think. I would advise, if you have any idea what you're going to do when you get sick, or when a loved one gets sick, or the world collapses, or let's be very, very humble here, but let's ask deeply, what is help? So let's do groups of 3, and you're gonna have maybe 15 minutes, just maybe, and each person, why don't we do it in a more